Hi gaming guys, and welcome to episode 47 of Tour of Japan, the review series for Gran Turismo 6's current selection of Super GT class machines. And in this episode we are now featuring the final team variant of the Honda NSX Super GT car that is on Gran Turismo. This is the 2006 Raybrig NSX. It has the two-tone blue with chrome, similar to some of the other Honda models, such as the HSV with a similar paint scheme. And this is, of course, one of the newer NSXs, the 2006 Spec model. And as a general rule, the newer NSXs are far superior to the older ones, not just in terms of the obvious straight-line performance and spec, but more importantly, in terms of drivability and handling. And that is no exception with this car. This is far superior to many of the older models. The last NSX that we reviewed, of course, was the Autobax NSX, which I said was possibly the worst car of the series. This car is so far removed from that, it's hard to believe that they're both based on the same vehicle. Now, of course, they are based on slightly different versions of the NSX, the older model compared to the new. But still, it's the same essential car underneath, the same concept, the same philosophy of design, and this car uses that design much more to its advantage. The handling is far more workable, far more usable, and although it does still have that trademark pivot steering that all of the NSXs have to some degree, be it more or less depending on the model, it is much more workable with this car. You can work around it much more, you can cope with it much more, you can remove more of it from the car's character with tuning than you can with the older models, and overall it's just a much better machine. Now that goes for almost all of the newer NSXs, with the exception of the 2003 Takata Dome. Anything from after that, so essentially the 2006 Spec onward, are very good cars as far as the Super GT class goes. The NSX is pretty popular, probably second most popular to the GTR in many cases, but most people do tend to go for the stealth models. If, however, you're more of a fan of actual cars with real liveries, how does the Raybrig compare? Well, in terms of spec, it's very similar to the newer shape Dome NSX of this generation, not the 2003 spec, but the 2006. Now, as far as the engine, it's running a 3.5 litre, as all of the NSXs do on Gran Turismo. It produces 877 horsepower, 651 pound-feet of torque, which is far superior to the older, say 2000 or 2001 NSXs. It weighs 1100 kilos, which puts it on par with pretty much the best of them in the GT500 class. There are a couple which are lighter, but for the most part that's very good. As far as PP, it actually sits at a pretty good PP, I would say, 653, which again is the same as the 2006 Dome NSX. That means that it does undercut both the GTR and the Lexus SC430 by quite a significant margin. And that's a really good thing, because it means you can get, as I've mentioned in the series before, more spec out of the car at that respective PP level. And that's always an advantage that's notable to have. As far as horsepower per tonne, it puts out just under 800. So overall the specs are literally exactly the same as the 2006 Takata Dome NSX, not the 2003. That car is a very different machine. As far as price, it's $950,000, which is the same as all of the other newer NSXs. And it is, of course, a premium, as, again, all of the 2006 NSXs are. So, how good is it overall? And if it's so similar to the Dome NSX of the same year, is it worth buying instead of that car? Or is it just a case of whichever livery you prefer? Well, as I've mentioned in the series before, even cars which have the same spec do sometimes feel slightly different to drive. And as I've said before, I'm not sure if that's actually the case, or if that's just that I want them to feel different, so they do. But it definitely feels to me even two cars with the same spec and possibly even the same tuning will feel slightly different. And to me, that is the case with this model. Now, it's not necessarily the best NSX. We are finishing with this NSX as far as the NSXs go in the series. But is it the best? Not necessarily. It's definitely not the worst. I would say it's on par with the best of them. So I wouldn't necessarily say there is any particular NSX that is better than all others. But of those that are classified as the best, this would probably be one of those. It's a good all-round car. It has strong all-round performance. The pivot handling is still there, of course, so overall, as far as any NSX goes, as I've mentioned before throughout the series, it's more of a professional driver's car. So, that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.